Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online PTS news video. In this video we are going to be covering the update 29 combat changes and champion point system changes, armor stat changes, or armor set, whatever. The armor system or skill line changes and the advanced UI. We're going to go through all the other stuff that comes with the update 29 in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So the champion point system update. In this update, we revamped the entire champion point system with an updated UI and all new stars to choose from. Now, when you're building a character, you have more choices than ever before. So they changed it ridiculously. Like, it looks wicked amazing. But on top of that, they changed a few other things. This new system encourages horizontal progression over vertical progression, which is good. This is what we needed. So the new champion system reduces how many passives are on a character at one time, reducing the calculations per combat action. Also a great bonus. Whatever is essential to the health and character progression, and the revamped champion system has far greater flexibility for expansion in the future, which is true. The new constellations changed from Mage, Warrior, and Thief to Warfare, Fitness, and Craft. The constellations have been reduced from 9 to 3, but the variety of stars available to spend points on in has greatly increased. Stars are interconnected in a way such that spending enough points to unlock the bonus awarded from the star will also unlock the path to its connected stars. So it's not like the old one where you could just put them wherever you wanted. You have to unlock one thing to unlock another and another and another. It's more like the classic system from Skyrim, which I think is going to be better, but at the same time we have to get in and see how this all works. So stars with the constellations that categorized under two main types, so non-slottable and slottable. Non-slottable, these are stars which give their noted stats and do not need further interaction other than adding the requisition points or requisite points to activate the stat bonus listed. Slottable, these are stars which give you their noted stats and must be added to the champion bar to activate. Now the champion bar is this 12 slot system at the top. You have 4 for each constellation that you can put stars into. And then we've added a new champion bar, which they talk about here, which slot up to 4 stars from each of the 3 constellations. You can now swap out any slotted star at any time while not in combat. The cost to respecking your champion points is still 3,000 gold. The CP cap has been adjusted. You can now spend up to 3,600 CP points, or points. You have a 3,600 point cap. We've adjusted the rate at which you gain CP to accommodate for the cap lift. You can still earn champion points at level 50 or higher, but as with the original CP system, you cannot spend any you have earned regardless of your level. You can spend any of them regardless of your level. So you still need to reach level 50 to unlock the champion system, but once you reach level 50 with that character, and any character above level 50 will gain champion points. All characters have had their base health increased by 1,600, up from 8,744, and their max magic and stamina to 12,000, up from 7,958. These changes were made to offset the 20% increase in stats gained from the original champion point. So this is great. New players will get this automatically. So you don't have to worry about being at that 20% loss until you get to CP 150 and champion points 100 in each tree. You can get it right out the door. So characters now also take 15% reduced damage at base to reduce the loss of mitigation from the champion point system, and characters now also start with 20 weapon and spell damage at level 1 and gain additional 20 per level up to a maximum of 1,000 at level 50, which is incredible, by the way. I'm glad they did that. So now armor changes. So equipped armor pieces now passively augment your character's effectiveness at a base skill line. In addition to their purchasable passives, these effects are now noted in the armor section of the skills screen and are unlocked immediately upon unlocking the skill lines itself. You can find their effect below. So light armor gets these bonuses and penalties no matter what. Reduce your damage taken from magical attacks by 1% per piece worn, and they made a huge change here. Each worn. Reduce the cost of dodge roll by 3% per piece worn, and increase your movement speed while sneaking by 5% per piece worn. Reduce the cost of break free by 5% per piece worn. Reduce the cost of bash by 3% for each piece worn. Now that's the positives. The negatives are, the penalties are, increase the damage you take from martial attacks by 1% per piece worn. So if you're wearing 4 pieces, you take 4% more damage from martial. They also increased the cost of block by 3% per piece worn, and they decreased your damage done with bash by 1%. So you get this really nice reduced bash cost, but increased bash or reduced bash damage and blocking, increased block chance, which is kind of fair in my opinion with light armor. Alright, medium armor. Now they have no penalties. They only get bonuses. So reduce the cost of sprint by 1% per piece worn, reduce the cost of sneak by 5% per piece worn, reduce the cost of block by 3% per piece worn, and reduce the damage taken from area of effect attacks by 2% for 2 seconds after you roll dodge, and they increase the movement speed by 2% while immune to crowd control. That's their bonuses. More stealth, more sneaky, more about, being in the fight, out of the fight kind of thing, which is cool. Heavy armor. Reduce the damage taken, and this has penalties as well, but reduce the damage taken from martial attacks by 1 per piece per piece worn. Increase the amount of damage blocked by 1% per piece worn. I think that's cool, but at the same time, it makes it to where it's like all about being tanky. And that kind of ruins the heavy armor, in my opinion, because heavy armor should be about being tanky, not being a tank using a sword and shield. But the fact that it applies to all blocking and all bashing, that's nice. So it includes bashing with two-handed weapons, dual wield, not just sword and shield. So they also reduce damage taken while immune to crowd control effects by 2% while you're immune. So, and that's per piece worn. The penalties. Increased your damage taken from magical attacks by 1% per piece worn. Reduced your movement speed bonus to sprint by 1% per piece worn. Increased your cost of roll dodge by 3% per piece worn. And increase the size of your detection area while sneaking by 10% per piece worn, making it easier to detect. Being stealth in heavy armor doesn't work. And that's what they try to explain here. The changes above were done to help increase the effect of armor plays on your build by augmenting your core combat mechanics such as break free, roll dodge, and sprint in ways that are not already apparent in the paradigms. Additionally, the rock, paper, scissor effect that armor was originally meant to follow should have more sharp effects in PvP situations where light armor is stronger versus heavy armor, but weaker versus medium, and heavy armor is stronger versus medium. Interesting, like, rock, paper, scissors idea, but I'll get back to this in another video. We also tried to avoid the outright buffing the same exact playstyles that already exist with some armor types in efforts to improve armor viability rather than reinforce the existing patterns. For example, light armor has much more freedom with most of its stamina cost, but is less effective with outright soaking damage. Heavy armor is now slower but bulkier, and medium armor is more slippery but with less sharp bonuses, as it has no drawbacks. All armor passives now scale per piece of armor equipped rather than some of them getting bonuses while wearing 5 or more pieces. This, along with the new penalty and bonus system of armor, should help diversify build variety and increase the viability of unique options, such as 4-3 and all 7 of the same armor type being worn. So light armor now has these. Concentration, this passive now grants 469 to 939 spell penetration per piece of light armor worn, rather than 2442 or for 4,884 while when wearing 5 pieces. So this is per piece, up from 5 pieces. Prodigy, this passive now grants 0.5 or 1% spell critical per piece of light armor worn, rather than 5 and 10% when wearing 5 pieces or more. And spell warding, this increased the amount of spell resistance granted per rank to 363 and the 760 or 26, up from 18, whatever that is. So this will be interesting to see what people do with their builds, because this just creates a build majority, like a massive build quantity out of what we had before, and I think this is really good. So agility, the medium armor, this passive now grants 1 to 2% weapon damage per piece of medium armor worn, rather than 7 to 15 for 5. And dexterity decreases the amount of your weapon critical, or decreases the amount of weapon critical granted per piece of medium armor worn, down to this many. So it's really interesting they did that. And then the heavy armor. This is the one that I don't get. So rapid mending, this passive now increases healing taken by 1% for every 2/1 pieces of heavy armor worn, rather than for every 2 to 1 piece. Okay, and then rather than 4 to 8% while wearing 5. Okay. So resolve, decrease the amount of armor granted to this amount rather than this when wearing the armor. And then revitalize, this passive now increases the resources restored from fully charged heavy attacks by 2 or 4% for each piece of heavy armor. I wonder if this is for each piece of heavy armor as well, because if it's only 343, and when you're wearing, so if you're for each, is this for each piece? Oh, per piece. Okay. So that's really cool. The resolve one I like all the changes of the armor, but I do think there's a lot more that can be done. I really do. So advanced stats. You can now view additional combat stats about your character by selecting advanced stats in the character select menu. The character menu. This includes a variety of additional offensive, defensive, and utility bonuses that your character currently has based on their equipment, buffs, debuffs, skills, and champion point expenditures. Additionally, physical and spell penetration have been added to the main stats view. So this is really cool. There's a lot to go over with that. I'll have to do a separate video, but there's a lot, and I love what it does. So now we can fast travel outside of homes. So when you fast travel to your house from anywhere in the world, you will be able to travel outside the home instead of just traveling to the home and then going outside. You'll also still be able to travel inside. Furnishing and house guest preview improvements. So some new, more guesswork when deciding. Yeah, we get it. New homes. 2 new homes are available for the test during the PTS cycle. One is like, it says it's an abandoned Sheogorath shrine that the whatever features a statue of the Mad God and and it's in the Red Mountain area. Really cool. And then the Ancient Pillar, or this one, the Alien Ruins. This is one I want to really get into because I think it looks amazing. So I will be doing tours of both these houses, furnished, of course, on the PTS. So keep an eye out for those videos. New furnishing. In Update 29, we added several new furnishings to acquire and have made some quality life changes. So the Dwarven structural items, we've added a new set of 20 Dwarven furnishing plans in the Markarth style. They have a chance to appear in the Markarth reward coffers, which are awarded by completing the world boss and delve daily quests in the Reach. These plans include various platforms, pillars, and stairways, as well as structural components, including the plans for a fireplace, a double door, and a tower. So really cool. I like that they're adding more to that. New Master Writ furnishings. So the Master Crafter, Mediator, and 7 new furnishing plans available to purchase. So there's the diagram, pattern, blueprint, praxis, whatever, but that's the Dwarven Minecart, Ornate, Solitude Yarn Rack, Colorful, Solitude Well, Noble, Solitude Hearth, Rounded Tall, Vampiric Cauldron, Provisioning Station, and the Dwarven Crystal Scone. Cool. As usual, Rollis has our crafting furnishings folio, so lots of new furnishings. I mean, I would go through and read them all, but for those of you that are fans of this, expect to see a lot of new stuff. So, new Undaunted Quartermaster furnishings, new Crown Store furnishings, the Ethereal Well, new antiquities. There is a new antiquity and an antique map in the Western Skyrim. So you can go and get this in the Western Skyrim. You can purchase it after you've completed the Pathfinder achievement from any of the vendors across Western Skyrim. And then new Battleground Collectibles, of course. I mentioned these in the last video. Scorching Ball, Chaos Ball emote, the Chaos Ball Victory Dance, and the Chaos Ball Boom. Really cool. New mail system changes and organization changes. So the system mail includes mail sent by... So beginning with this update, system mail will now remain in your inbox for a limited time, after which it will be deleted. This mirrors the current behavior of players sent mail. So mail sent by NPCs such as hirelings, mail containing collector's edition rewards, mail sent for completing PvP activities, mail sent for completing random dungeon runs such as premium Undaunted exploration supply mails, mails containing guild trader purchases, and mails that have been bounced from another player, such as the COD items that have been refused. When this update launches, all system mails you currently have in your inbox will be given a timer of 30 days. When that timer gets closer to running out, the mail will be highlighted with a red text and iconography to indicate it will soon expire. When the system mail timer expires, then that mail and the items or gold that have been attached will be deleted. In addition, for keyboard mouse mode only, we've added headers to separate player sent mails from system mails. Update 30, Prologue quest, Immortals Touch. This is the quest that's going to come out with Blackwood. So this is the Prologue quest for Blackwood, not the Prologue quest for this thing, but for Blackwood. So lots of cool things to begin. It tells you how to do it. It says venture to Grotwood, Deshawn, Granumbra, depending on your lines, and look for Lucinia outside the city walls. I think that's one of the new characters too in the chapter that you'll meet up with. And then, of course, template information. We got a lot of template changes. I already covered this in the last video. Combat gameplay changes, combat system, or the champion system. Known issues. There's a lot of known issues with the new champion system depending on different things. I would suggest reading this. There is a link to this in the description to these patch notes, so you can read them yourselves. But there's a lot of different things here that can cause the champion points not to work. And this one here, the champion point for Shield Master, is not properly applying to Crystallized Shield and Sun Shield or their morphs. Note that the star currently does not affect abilities that grant a damage shield as an auxiliary effect, such as Furious Leap or Shielded Assault, which is intentionally, as those abilities' primary function are not to grant damage shields. Therefore, they are not considered damage shield abilities. So anything that grants a damage shield, I guess, is affected by that. Let's go ahead and skip through all this stuff here. It's just about the changes to the dungeons. A lot of changes in here. Combat and ability changes. So general changes: gaining resistance for a particular damage type no longer grants immunities to its respective status effects, and adjust racial passives that once granted immunities to make up for the loss. Monsters no longer have random chance to apply status effects such as burning or poison from their attacks naturally, and will apply these statuses through intentional means and designed as such. This adjustment should help lower combat variance in some encounters, where you seemingly take extra damage that is outside of your ability to naturally counteract, as against the overchargers who could apply the concuss status effect, causing you to take more damage from all sources. They fixed an issue for where abilities, items, sets, and passives that dealt damage had an incorrect chance to proc their respective status effects. In most cases, this was a reduction from 10% of the value most appropriate to their attack type. Yeah. Player source synergies will now attempt to cull their animations whenever you activate other abilities to reduce animation errors. See, buffs and debuffs. So there are now 3 new status effects for the following damage types: bleed, physical, and magic damage. Bleed damage has a chance to apply hemorrhage. It deals slightly weaker damage than burning over 4 seconds and applies minor mangle to the target while affected. If you guys don't know what minor mangle does, it reduces the amount of health they have by 10%. So I think it's 10%. I don't know if they changed it with the last update. I don't remember. But physical damage has a chance to apply sundered. It deals minor damage and applies minor breach for 4 seconds. And magical damage has a chance to apply overcharged. It deals minor damage and applies minor magicka steal for 4 seconds. This is great all around changes, in my opinion. Thank you, devs, for that. They also fixed an issue with some status effects such as disease, chilled, and concuss could fail to be recognized as status effects from sets and passives that stated while under the effect of a status effect. Minor brittle fixed an issue where this debuff could be applied via the chill status effect if the target had a longer duration of minor maim active. Lava Whip changes. So this is Dragon Knight Ardent Flame Lava Whip. Molten Whip fixed an issue with weapon and spell damage from this passive did not appear if the character in your character sheet. It does now. Draconic Power, Dark Talons, this ability, and Choking Talons morph now deal flame damage rather than magic damage, and the Ignite synergy now deals flame damage rather than magic damage. And that's on both the morphs. So that's really cool that they did that. Petrify, or Earth and Heart, Petrify, Shattering Rocks. This morph now heals you when the stun ends on the enemy, rather than causing the enemy's next attacks to heal you. This fixed numerous issues where the heal belonged to the attacker and their stats rather than yours. Frozen Colossus fixed an issue where the ultimate and its morphs could return all damage over time in some cases. Nightblade Assassination, Mark Target fixed an issue. There's a lot of fixes here with this. Shadow, Consuming Darkness, hitting refresh, heal now ticks every second rather than every half second. They adjusted to be about roughly the same. While the synergy is active, it now displays what it does when you hover over the active effects tab. Veiled Strike, Surprise Attack morph. This morph now applies Sundered status effect on hit rather than reducing the target's physical resistance by 5%. Cripple, from Siphoning Debilitate morph. This morph now applies the Overcharge status effect tick rather than applying minor magicka steal for its duration. This also fixes an issue where the magicka steal could be removed if you cast this ability early. Sorcerer, Dark Magic, Crystal Shard. Reduce the damage of this ability in Crystal Fragments morph by approximately 2% to match the proper ranged cast time standard. Daedric Mines, they fixed in some issues. Daedric Summoning, Daedric Curse fixed an issue. Storm Calling, Overload fixed an issue. Aedric Spear, Burning Light passive. This passive is now 3-second window between each stack rather than 1.1 second window to reduce the cadence in which you must consistently attack with an Aedric Spear ability. I think that's a really good one that they did that. Solar Flare, they reduced the cast time of this ability in Dark Flare morph by to 0.8 seconds down from 1. Reduce the damage done by 21%. Don't like that. And they reduced the ability's cost to 2,700. Okay, that's good, but I don't like the 21% damage reduction. And then they give a developer's thing here. Similar to the other cast time abilities, we've taken an approach for a quicker cast time to help make this ability easier to weave within the 1 second global cooldown. This should also help reduce burst potential when combined with other high-hitting attacks, but helps the DPS go up by making it smoother to use and easier to sustain. Light Weaver, yep. Warden, Winter's Embrace, Frozen Gate Fix. Now we're getting to the crazy stuff. So weapon skills. Bow. Heavy attacking with a bow has a completely new reload animation that is faster and smoother than before and 100% less jitters. The power of a sober mind does wonders on the battlefield. Accuracy. This passive now grants critical chance rather than weapon critical. Rank 2 now grants 6% critical chance up from 5%. Snipe. Reduce the cast time of this ability to 0.8 seconds down from 1 second. This ability and its morphs now have a much faster, smoother animation to support their new cast time. Reduce the damage by approximately 21%. There you guys go. This is not the god skill anymore. And they reduce the cost to 2,700. They also increase the travel speed to help reduce the ability to fire off multiple projectiles before the original projectile landed. And focused aim morph. This morph now ranks up in cost reduction rather than the damage per rank. So now the total cost is 2430. And they explain here why they did it. Similar to Solar Flare changes this update to the Crystal Shards and a few updates ago, we wanted to make these abilities less bursty in nature while helping their fluid usage in rapid succession make them less potent at combining into the deadly Alpha Strike attacks and more potent while used in a rotation. Blade Cloak, Deadly Cloak reduced the visual and audio, Ren, Thriving Chaos, this morph's hitbox is now more accurately matched its visual effects, resulting in a significant area of effect increase, which is awesome. Twin Blade and Blunt, they reworked this passive to grant the following bonuses. Now this is something that really caught me going, what? So axes now increase the critical damage and healing you do by 2 and 4% per axe, rather than having a chance to apply a bleed. Daggers now grant 1.7 to 3.4% critical chance per dagger rather than 2.5 and 5% weapon critical chance. Maces now grant 825 to 1650 armor penetration per mace rather than ignoring 5 to 10% of the target's physical resistance. And swords now grant 71 to 142 weapon damage per sword rather than increasing damage done. Now, they do explain some of the changes, but I have to laugh at this because a lot of people use swords on Magicka characters because it was 6% of your damage with both magic and weapon. So now it's just weapon damage. So it's funny they did that. So previously this passive was too binary in terms of which was viewed as the best. So we've made some adjustments to make it more clear as well as more universally helpful. We've opted to remove the passive bleed chance as it was the only effect that could carry over after activating, making it an almost guaranteed pick. Maces also felt too punishing and awkward. As they became weaker, the more you reduce the target's resistance, so we moved it to a flat bonus instead. Swords often didn't scale the way they appeared and seemed stronger than they were, so we moved it to a more easily discernible power increase. Additionally, all of these effects now apply to any attack rather than only martial-based attacks to assist hybrid builds and generally accessible. Well, it's funny that he says that. So if it's 142 weapon damage per sword, does this apply to both weapon and spell damage? Because it says here, now apply to any attack rather than only martial-based. It was already that way. So you guys, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but hey, whatever. We'll see in game. Heavy weapons, they reworked this passive to grant the following bonuses. Axes now grant 4 to 8% critical. Yeah, the same thing as above, just no daggers. And the weapon damage change on the swords, and this, of course, because this is you're getting the equal amount of these, but in the you get it, yeah, the guaranteed thing. Soul Magic Soul Strike, they finally fixed an issue where the ultimate and its morphs could fail to trigger other sets that had while in combat requirements. Thank you. Misform, well, they fixed some vampire issues. Here, Scene's Fortitude reduced the health and stamina recovery of this morph down to 333, down from 666. Pounce, Brutal Pounce, they fixed an issue of that. Savage Strength, this passive now grants major resolve on both ranks rather than increasing your armor by 5 and 10,000. This was done to tone down some of the staggering defense that werewolves could obtain with little to no effort. Yeah, they were pretty powerful. And the direwolf summon from this ultimate no longer taunt enemies and cause them to behave erratically since they cannot be targeted. Fighters Guild. Banish the Wicked. This passive now grants 1, 2, or 3 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy while you have a Fighters Guild ability slotted, rather than 3 to 6 and 9 whenever you kill Undead, Daedra, or Werewolf. This should have been done a long time ago. Entropy, they fixed an issue where this ability is worse, could cause your next animation to hitch or jitter. Thank you. And then Spell Symmetry, they fixed an issue with desync your Magica bar, which was annoying. Alliance War, Assault, Continuous Attack. This passive now grants Major Gallop. When purchased at rank 1 or 2, Rapid Maneuvers, this ability no longer grants Major Gallop and is no longer, since it is no longer necessary, reduce the cost to 64.26. Racial, lots of racial changes here. So slightly adjusted some racial passives now that champion points have been reworked, and a few standards within our set bonuses efficiency system have changed to simply, for simplicity's sake, we have listed the final rank adjustments for each passive rather than each rank's adjustments. So, Argonian, this passive, Argonian Resistance, this passive no longer grants immunity to disease status effects and once again grants poison resistance. Yay! Resourceful. This passive also now grants 1,000 max stamina, not just max magicka. So that's awesome. And they reduced the amount that you restore from drinking potions to 31.25. Perfect. So now Argonians have both magicka and stamina. I wonder why. Hybrids, maybe? Threaten, Spell Attunement. Increase the magical recovery granted from this passage to 130 from 100. Dark Elves, Dynamic. Increase the max magic and stamina to 1910 up from 1875. Not much of an increase, but it really shows that they're pushing hybrid play. And I like it. Shut up, dog. Resist Flame. This passive no longer grants immunity to the burning status effect. They increase the flame resistance to 4620 up from 2310. And then High Elf, Elemental Talent. This passive now grants weapon and spell damage rather than just only spell damage. Spell Recharge, they reduce the restore on this power to 625 down from 640. And the passive now works with any ability used rather than off-class abilities. Imperial, Red Diamond, this passive no longer restores health, magic, and stamina when you deal damage. They increased the cost reduction from all abilities to 6%. Red Diamond, awesome. Khajiit, Feline Ambush, increased the critical damage and healing done from this to 12% up from 10. And Lunar Blessing, increase the max magicka, health, and stamina you get to 915 per, up from 825. That is almost a 100-point increase. That's pretty cool. Nord, Resist Frost, now no longer immune to still chilled status effect to increase the frost resistance of 4620. That's a lot. They also reduced the amount of armor used granted to 2600 down from almost 4k, which is really good because it made it really hard to make builds with him using a sword and shield because they would always go over the resistance value, like cap. Orc, Brawny, reduced the max stamina granted from this passive to 1,000 down from 2,000. Swift Warrior, this passive now grants weapon and spell damage rather than weapon damage. Unflinching Rage, this passive now heals for 2125 when you deal damage once every 4 seconds rather than healing 600 whenever you deal damage with a weapon attack. So anytime you deal damage, you get healed. This is really crazy. And they fixed an issue, and that's every 4 seconds. And they fixed an issue passive was not considered a proc. and the heal from this passive can no longer critically strike. So it's just you get this big heal every 4 seconds. Red Guard, Adrenaline Rush, increase the stamina restored from this passive to 1005. The passive now procs on any damage done rather than direct damage. And then Wood Elf gets some really cool stuff. The movement speed and armor penetration granted from this passive no longer requires you to roll dodge. You gain it automatically. And then they decrease the movement speed bonus to 5% and the armor penetration to 950, down from 1500. Still, you're getting a 5% movement speed bonus and armor penetration out the door for free. Resist Affliction. This passive no longer grants immunity to poison side effects and is now disease resistance, which it should have stayed in the beginning. Itemization and item sets. They did a lot of changes here. So reduce the single stat line critical chance rating to 657 down from 833. So they went from a 3.8% crit rating down to 657. And they reduced the amount of critical chance rating granted per set. So I wonder if they went through and changed the sets to say crit rating instead of like weapon crit or whatever, if they all say that now. Reduce the perfected ability augment stat line of critical rating, chance rating. So this is the perfected. Berserking Warrior, reduce the weapon critical granting to 241 down from 305. Dragon Guard Elite, this set now stacks 10 times, once every 0.5 seconds, up from 5 times every 1 second. And the weapon critical per stack to 75, and the overall in an increase. Eagle Eye and Wrath of the Emporium reduce the critical chance of these sets 2-piece, grants 1652 down from 1829. And Leviathan and Mother Sorrows reduce the critical rating from the 5-piece bonus grants to 1528 down from 1937. So this is the full 5-piece bonus, guys. Alright, Mechanical Acuity. They increase the cooldown of the set to 21, up from 18. Medusas, they reduce the set's 5-piece bonus and spell critical to 892, down from 900. Again, this is higher due to the 5-piece bonus also focused on a minor buff. Slime Craw, they did the same thing, and it also has a minor buff attached to the 2-piece bonus. And then Zogvins, they increase the weapon critical of this set to 177, up from 134. And they go over some developer notes here. Previously, critical chance was a source very abundantly and was the clear winner in terms of a chaseable stat for the end game dealing in PvE, while having natural counters and operational costs in PvP. The main source of this issue was the fact that the standard rating for critical chance granted was too high. Meaning item sets and passives that granted it were out of line when compared to other stats like weapon and spell damage or penetration, which these adjustments we expect many builds to have reduced critical chance ratings while also helping tone down the effectiveness of critical damage and healing, unless your build goes out of its way to specifically chase those stats now. So unless you really want to be a glass cannon, you're not going to be so glassy anymore. In the efforts of a combat against effectiveness of pre-buff sets that retain their effective, so these sets now require you to be in combat for their 5-piece bonus to activate. All Halls of Fabrication unique sets, Armor Master set, the Materia Service, Moon Dancer, Shrouded Leech, Spectre's Eye, Tooth of Lorcas, or Loxets, Undaunted Infiltrator, and Weaver. And these buffs are no longer restrained by if you unequip a number of pieces required to activate them. So, or these buffs are no longer retained. So Bulwark, you have to have both of them equipped in order for it to stay active. The same thing with Stygian. You have to have all 5 pieces. And then Adept Rider, this set now permanently grants Major Gallop and Major Expedition when worn, rather than granting Major Evasion while mounted, and granting a harmful area that damages and grants Major Evasion to your group mates after dismounting. So that's pretty cool, and with this rework we expect this set to remain niche in functionality, but far from more beginner and crafter friendly by helping traverse the game world, especially when at lower levels, when you cannot attain these buffs easily. Dragon or Dungeon and Arena sets, Druzak's Claws. This set now grants 129 weapon damage on its 5-piece bonus. Decrease the weapon damage granted per bleed on enemies to 103, down from 133. They explain some stuff. Flame Blossom, fixed issue. Iron Blood, fixed issue. And then Strength of Automaton. This set now clarifies it also works with bleed damage abilities, since this is a new damage type. But the set was originally designed to keep the damage type in mind. Alkosh. The reduction portion of this set now scales off 100% of your weapon damage, up to a cap of 3,000, rather than basing it on damage done. So armor reduction on this is when you activate the synergy, you apply an armor reduction to the enemies. It now scales off your weapon damage and caps at 3,000, which is great. And they fixed an issue where they properly labeled as a proc. So previous adjustments of helping make this set shine more when utilized on stamina damage dealers missed the mark. So we are converting it to something with far less variance and total power. Note that the value is still relatively achievable on tank builds who wish to run it instead, but they may need to run some extra weapon damage where they normally might not to reach it. So this is cool. They're trying to make the set geared towards stamina-based character, like damage dealers. That's a good thing. PvP, Alicia's Bulwark. This set now has a cap of 1320 health recovery. Ravager, fixed in issue. Monster Mass, Celine. This set no longer has a 15% chance, proc chance, and is now guaranteed to proc on any non-proc melee damage. Increase the cooldown to 6 seconds, up from 4, and they reduce the damage to... And that's because it's going to activate more often. Lower DPS on high-end for builds utilizing rapid hitting melee attacks, such as jabs or rapid strikes, while hoping it perform better on the lower end with builds that utilize singular hit spammables. And then Tremor Scale, they fixed an issue where the set's physical resistance reduction was considering a snare and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. There's a lot of other stuff in here that you can look at, like move several mementos that have non-cosmetic uses to the tools section of the collectibles menu, including the following: Fire Rock, blah, 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 blah. Foods granted from vendors and Cyrodiil, such as the Cyrodiil's Fire Brew, have been brought up to standards with their crafted and Crown Store counterparts, resulting in the duration and stats granted to mirror them. 2 identical pieces of gear will no longer be counted together when looking at the item tooltip. Bag bank counts if one of the pieces has been retraded to a different trait. Text and UI stuff, housing, furnishing, blah, 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 blah. Lots of stuff. And that should be it for the PTS patch notes, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts on all this stuff. I have to say this, and this is coming from somebody who has been an advocate for hybrid play for a long, long time. Thank you, devs, for finally giving a lot of these races that capability. The High Elf being stuck as a magical character all the time, where the Breton could do both magic and stamina in a sense, because they garnered from the magic recovery side of it, but now giving them the weapon and spell damage, and still having the high magicka, that really helps them. And then with the Argonian giving them both magicka and stamina, plus, you know, just that alone is going to make a huge difference in how they play. I mean, Argonians are going to be great healers around the board, both magicka and stamina. So that's really good, but also the fact that they can hybridize using both magic and stamina as their, combat flavor. And really opening up the door to this idea, like, hey, we want you to play how you want. We want you to enjoy the game how you want, but we still have to see what they did with the champion point system. Because the champion points discussion that they put in here doesn't really explain all the changes. Like how do the what does each constellation do? You know, do we get this benefit of like, oh, this applies to magic-based damage, this applies to stamina-based damage, or is it both? You know, that's the thing we really need to know to see how well hybrids will do in this next update. And I do like the armor changes, even though I don't know. I don't always agree with things like these changes down here. I like because like the fact that it's per piece worn. But the one thing I didn't see, the one change I didn't see, and a lot of people are probably going to notice this, we didn't see a change to the passive and the undaunted skill line. That if you want the 5% or the 3% extra in stats or whatever it is, per kind of thing, the higher increase, you have to wear one of each armor type. So is this going to be better now because this is per piece? So like the mixing of things, like I could see build like people going with like 3 pieces of heavy, 2 medium, 2 light, or people going with like 3 pieces of medium, 2 light, 2 heavy, and then 3 light, 2 medium, 2 heavy, or like there's such a different combination now that you can go with. They can give you all these different benefits in different ways to play because of these changes. But are people still going to go for, oh, I want to be super glassy, stamina DPS, so I'm going to wear 5 pieces of medium armor, 1 light and 1 heavy, so I can get that, still keep that passive from the Undaunted line? Or are people going to actually start looking at every aspect? And this is something that really intrigues me. I do have something to say about the armor changes, and I said I was going to save it for another video, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. I think when they did all this, they should have just changed everything about this skill line. Like, rework the complete skill line of light, medium, and heavy armor. Rewrote them. Like, reword them, do all that stuff. Don't just put the light armor bonuses, penalties, medium armor bonuses, heavy armor bonuses and penalties, and then change some of the skill lines. Like, literally rewrite the whole thing. So people understand, like, when you wear medium armor, you get these benefits. If you wear heavy armor, you get these benefits and these negatives. If you wear light armor, you get these benefits and negatives, but then you also get all these other perks, which you can build on as you progress your character, and I think that would have made a lot of sense. The other thing about these gear sets, the new item sets, these, man, some of them are ridiculous, and I can see a lot of people chasing them. And not only those sets, but a lot of other sets in the game now are gonna have more reason for people to, like, not just spell critical. Like, there's gonna be a lot of sets that are gonna be like players that are gonna go after sets, not because their weapon or spell critical, but because of their benefit in the way they work with group play, the way they work in solo play, the way they work in different types of play for the kind of build they want to play. Like, we have so many sets that amplify the hybrid play style already. And now we have even more sets that amplify that plus group play, which is great. I think it's time to start seeing more variations in how sets work. We always know that every set's gonna have 2, 3, 4 piece bonus with the 5 piece being some, like, oh, it gives you this. But I mean, you got to think, how many more chapters and DLCs are they gonna release, and then how long is it gonna be before they run into the problem of we can't come up with any more set ideas? Like, we're just going to start mimicking what we already got, and they've done that in the past. So are they going to continue to do that, or are they going to start actually working towards or striving towards bringing us new sets that give us new ways to create characters? Like, I would love to see a new hybrid sets. A lot more of those. Like, one that does, like, on the 2, 3, 4 piece, like, weapon spell crit, weapon spell damage, and then max stam and max magicka, and then on the 5 piece, whenever you deal damage to an enemy of any kind, magicka, stamina, physical, magicka, it doesn't matter, you increase your weapon spell damage or your weapon spell crit by so much. There would be a lot more flexibility to hybrid play, and it would allow for a lot more diversity in the game. I think that's something we need to see, is a lot more diversifying in builds, and less of a linear structure like we had in the past. I'm hoping that with the changes to the champion points, the armor, and all that stuff, it plays into that theoretical idea of, hey, we want you to have more options in the way you play. but we want there to be repercussions to the choices you make. So this way you're not overpowered. You're not a super god, but instead you have to, you know, really focus on this stuff. Like, I'm looking at I have a hybrid healer. Right now I have a stamina slash magicka hybrid healer that I play, and I wear light armor. I wear 5 pieces of light armor, 1 medium, light, 1 heavy. But looking at this, I'm thinking I might go 2 heavy, 2 medium, and 3 light. So I can take greater advantage of that, and then use an axe and a sword. Because the axe is going to give me that 4% extra healing, with the sword giving me that 3% extra damage. Or is it 2%? I don't remember. But you know what I mean. Like, it's going to give me that extra capability to play that character really efficiently, because I'm going to get that extra resistance from the heavy armor, and it's going to kind of negate that loss of the magic defenses and the loss of the physical resistances. So I'm going to kind of play off of that. And I think that'll play really well, but until I get on the PTS, I won't be able to tell you guys. So, but that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, go ahead and subscribe. And when you do, make sure you click that notification bell to be notified when I post new videos. This helps me and you in many ways I'm not even going to get into. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.